Welcome to Justice. I'm Jeanine PT-1. Thanks for being with us. And thanks again for making Justice #1 last weekend and for keeping liars, leakers, and liberals on the New York Times bestsellers list for 3 months and counting. Have you gotten your copy yet? A very special show on tap for tonight. Counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, is here live. Katrina Pearson from the Trump re-election campaign. And later, the host of Tucker Carlson Tonight, Tucker Carlson himself. Also on deck, an exclusive tour of Liberty University with the president of the groundbreaking college, Jerry Falwell Jr., a tour you won't want to miss. But first, my opening statement. The military needs to be deployed to our southern border immediately to stop the caravan of thousands of illegals pouring into our nation. Right now is a very dangerous time for Americans. Border control is essential to your safety and the safety of your family. The military, the National Guard, ICE, Border Patrol, and DHS needs to block this caravan from entering our nation. Now, I'm not saying they're all criminals. What I am asking is, who are they? What I am saying is, I want to vet them, screen them. I want to find out who among them is a criminal, who among them is a gang member, like the notorious MS-13 gang members who arrogantly rode into our United States by invitation during the Obama years and are now in New York and elsewhere brutally and savagely murdering innocent American citizens. I want to know who is a pedophile, who is a sex offender, who thinks they're entitled to beat their wives. I want to know who has an alcohol problem, who has a drug problem, who likes to drive drunk, and who has no problem hauling drugs for the cartel. And if you can prove that you're not one of them or any other kind of criminal, I want to know what you have to offer us. What do you bring to this great nation? What are you going to contribute? Why should we be proud to count you as an American, other than adding to the Democrats' voting bloc and continuing the mob mentality that you have already exhibited you're proficient at? Now, if you're not a criminal, I want you to get to the back of the line behind everyone else who waited for a visa, came here legally, hired a lawyer, learned American history, and swore allegiance to this great nation. And only then am I interested in even talking to you about entering. I, for one, am sick and tired of the sense of entitlement that illegals have to enter this country and then immediately claim their constitutional rights as they carry the flags not of America, but the flags of their country. And God forbid we try to deport them to the country whose flag they so proudly wave. They have no claim on this country. They are not entitled to be here. They break our laws to come here. Now, this is not a left or right issue. This is a security issue, a safety issue. We simply cannot have people about whom we know nothing living next door to us, working next to us, or driving next to us. Crossers claim they're running from violence in their home countries. I spent my career fighting on behalf of innocent, helpless, silent victims of crime, victimized by violence, criminals who should have been stopped long before the crime. You're telling me because they're being victimized that every one of them is a victim and therefore entitled to come here as opposed to anywhere else on the planet? Go to the UN. Stay in Mexico. Now they say their poverty is justification for illegal entry. I've got news for you. Millions are suffering from poverty all over the world. Haiti, Uganda, Zimbabwe, the Congo, third world countries. So why is it just Central Americans and Mexicans are the poverty-stricken ones pouring into this country by the millions? Why? Why? Because they can. Because no one has told them they can't. Because no one has stopped them. They come because there's a big prize at the end. education, medication, housing, food stamps, all the things that you pay for. So you want open borders. Look at what it's done to Europe. If the left, the mob, and the demon rats had their way, there'd be rogue cities and rogue zones all over the U.S., just like Europe, with crime-ridden zones where law-abiding citizens, even law enforcement, are afraid to enter, and for good reason. The left, then, the Democrats in this country add an additional layer of protection so illegal criminals cannot be arrested in sanctuary cities and states where American citizens are thus put at risk. These people don't want a border wall. Have you ever asked yourself why? Do you really think they have a philosophical or an ideological objection to the concept of a wall or protection? Of course not. All these bozos are protected by doors and fences and security, yet they want our borders open. They want illegals to cross as a mob and act as a mob and unite around a state they have no right to be in and register and vote Democrat. Many bring the poison, drugs that take the lives of hundreds of thousands of Americans. A primer. 90% of heroin used in this country comes through the southern border. And Mexico thumbs its nose at us and says, your people asked for it. I got an idea. It's time to play hardball. The foreign aid to those countries, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, some $464 million in foreign aid from us, end it. Congress needs to stop the flow of our money to them. And if they need it so badly, use it to take care of the poverty and the victimization in their country. And I am sick and tired of people telling us to have a heart. We have a heart. We are the most generous country in the world. In 1986, Ronald Reagan gave all illegals amnesty. But amnesty does nothing but create an incentive for additional crossings by illegals. And so, here we are again. And for all of you who want to trash President Trump, I've got even more news for you. Presidents Bush and Obama sent the military to the border to the tune of $1.3 billion. And it's time to do it again. So let me be clear. When you cross the border into these United States illegally, expect to be arrested. You do not have the right to come here. We did not invite you here. You cannot stay here. And on your way out, you can tell the Democrats, George Soros, and the angry mob that's coming here, you either come the right way like everyone else, or be ready to face the military and a one-way ticket back to where you came from. And that's my open. Don't forget, my book, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy, has been on the New York Times bestsellers list for 3 months and counting. And believe it, it's got to be killing them at the New York Times. And President Trump tackled the issue of immigration and the caravan in Guatemala while taking on the Democrats at a raucous rally in Nevada today. Take a look.
The Democrat Party, and it's openly inviting millions of illegal aliens to break our laws, violate our borders, and overwhelm our nation. The Democrats want caravans. They like the caravans. A lot of people say, I wonder who started that caravan. And I want to thank Mexico. Mexico has been so incredible. Thank you, Mexico, and the leaders of Mexico. Thank you. And you know why? Because now Mexico respects the leadership of the United States. They haven't done that. They now respect our leadership. Thank you, Mexico. Great. We appreciate it. We do. But what they want is, and by the way, the wall that people scream. So we started the wall. It's moving along. I want to build it rapidly. I can do it in a year. We did 1.6 billion, 1.6 billion. We have another 1.6. Sounds like a lot of money. when you're going for almost 1,000 miles, it's not that much, but the wall is moving. I want to do it in 1 year. I want him to approve the wall.
And joining me now with more on this developing story and some other topics making news, Counselor for President Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne, thanks for being here today. You know, it's interesting. The president just then suggested that, you know, there might be more behind this and this sudden caravan right before the midterms. I must tell you, it seems to have happened all of a sudden. I mean, I haven't heard about a caravan since Obama invited them in 2014 and 15. What do you think is the genesis of this sudden movement toward the U.S. border?
Well, Judge, whatever the genesis, it's so great that the cameras and the Klieg lights are on, because I'm always a fan of just showing America what is really happening. Not just what is being curated through some of the reports and cherry-picked through some of the reports, but just shine a light, bring the cameras. And now people can see what it really means. Before, they saw what they called the kids in cages, which of course turned out many of them to be President Obama's kids in cages. But let them see what's actually happening, and let them juxtapose that with a president who is saying, in light of the modernized revolutionary trade deal, the USMCA, Mexican-Canadian-American trade deal, that we have better relationships with Mexico now. They respect this president and commander-in-chief, and they are helping now.
Yeah, Kellyanne, if they respect this president and commander-in-chief, and I believe you and I believe the president, I should be comfortable believing that Mexico is going to stop them before they come through the United States.
Well, they ought to do that, because I'll tell you, if you look statistically, Jeanine, and I want everyone to know that until very recently, the predominant trafficker, predominant person coming over the border was a single male, one male person coming in from Mexico. Now, 45% or so are family units are coming in, unaccompanied minors, or people who say they're a family coming in from Central America. This is a problem because we are encouraging people to smuggle children over and pretend they are a family unit. There's no way for folks to know instantly at the border. And by the way, and I talked to a number of cabinet secretaries and other senior officials this week. Don't forget, our brave men and women at the border are doing the best that they can. And they risk their lives every single day to be there and ask legitimate questions. If you want to come through one of the 26 ports of entry, if you want to stand in line and immigrate into the world's most generous country to immigrants, you can do that. We're talking about the sexual assaults are up now. The child smuggling is up. The drug smuggling is up. All of this because we don't have, we're a sovereign nation without physical borders, and this president ran and won on exactly that issue.
Statistics as it relates to the heroin crossing the border, how our southern borders are used by the cartel as a point of entry, that poison that is killing hundreds of thousands of Americans, 1,000 a week minimum.
That's right. There's no doubt. This president has had as a major focus stopping the drug supply and drug demand crisis that is rolling this nation. 72,000 Americans dead last year. 90% or so of all heroin in this country comes through the southern border. Obviously, the cocaine comes through the southern border. And now, increasingly, the fentanyl that is manufactured in labs in China, we are told, is also coming through the southern border because everybody knows it's an easy way to get in. And so this is very problematic because this president, and many people don't focus on this, he's constantly talking about the poison coming over the southern border, that it's coming to your community. And this opioid and drug crisis is no longer somebody else's kid, somebody else's coworker, somebody else's community.
Oh, it's real
It's touching every nook and cranny in this country.
Well, there's no question about that. I want to move to something that's in the news right now, and that is the Khashoggi. The president seems to have indicated that he believes that the explanation from Khashoggi's death given by the Saudis, but there seems to be evidence of his being tortured and chokehold, that it wasn't just a fight, it was a planned execution with bone saws, etc.
I have no information to verify any of that. I'm going to stand by the comments that the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, the President, have made, that these investigations are ongoing. The President has made clear that there seems no other explanation other than that the gentleman is dead. And I can't get ahead of the completion of any other investigation. It's very disappointing to see a major network run a completely false report that our own Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, and our president said was completely false and fantastical, that somehow the Secretary of State heard an audio tape and or read a transcript from said audio tape. They went with a false report, and it's that kind of reporting that really hurts investigations and the conclusion of information, but I'm not going to get ahead of that.
Okay, all right, and it's that kind of false reporting that Americans believe is going on, which is why they elected the outsider president. Kellyanne
I think it's why, look, that's right, and that's also why the media has a 20% approval rating. And look, the president has said, if in fact this happened, then there could be severe consequences. The vice president reiterated that.
Kellyanne Conway, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks, Jeanine.
All right. Katrina Pearson making a surprise appearance on Justice to take on Chris Hahn. That's ahead. You don't want to miss it. And next, she's back. Hillary Clinton's name comes up in federal court as new details emerge in her myriad of scandals dating back to her. Talk about that, as well as whether the Mueller investigation may be mercifully brought to an end, as Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch. Justice rolls on in a moment. Welcome back. New details out of federal court this week about the scandals that are still dogging Hillary Clinton. Here to talk about that, as well as reports that the Mueller investigation may be close to an end date, is the president of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton. All right, good evening, Tom. You know, it's very interesting to read about this federal judge. His name is Royce Lamberth, and he was pretty outraged that not just how they granted immunity to the Hillary people in that email investigation, but for providing false statements on the Clinton email case. Now, 2 years ago, I said all of these State Department lawyers should be brought up on contempt or fraud before the court. What do you think should happen?
Well, at least they should be required to ask more questions, and they should stop obstructing our requests for information. You know, the federal court judge already granted us discovery because he had been gamed. He thought there was bad faith in the way, obviously, the State Department had behaved in a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit about Benghazi, no less.
Right.
And, of course, they were hiding their Clinton emails from us. They didn't tell the court or Judicial Watch forthrightly about what was going on. And that's why the court came in not too long ago and said, look, I had false statements given to me. I don't know about these false affidavits that were given to me. I'm interested to know what the Justice Department knew, what and when.
Okay.
And I'm surprised that Cheryl Mills, Hillary Clinton's top aide, was given immunity when I found that she had committed perjury, and I couldn't believe her, in another case about emails that Judicial Watch had pursued.
Okay,
so the State Department's the State Department is fighting us on this, which is most troubling.
Well, yeah, and the State Department, as well as the Department of Justice, said at the beginning of the Trump administration that Hillary Clinton was a private citizen, and therefore her record shouldn't be available to the public as freedom of information. I mean, the deep state is so deep, I don't even know where it stops or starts. But having said all that, doesn't the judge have the right to hold these lawyers in contempt?
Well, you'll see that's potentially the relief that may be granted over after we get some of the questions we still have pending with the State Department. We're asking, for instance, this judge to allow us to depose Hillary Clinton directly, ask her questions directly about her email practices. And he's considering it still. Cheryl Mills, also another top aide.
What's the likelihood that that's going to happen, Tom?
I think it's a significant likelihood. We've already questioned her under oath in written questions. We're fighting her in another court about getting more questions answered. So discovery for Hillary Clinton is a real possibility. All
right. I want to move on to something else. You said that it's time to bring Mueller in to testify before Congress. Are you talking about oversight, in their oversight capacity, or the judiciary? Who?
Well, you could have the Oversight Committee, you could have judiciary committees of both the Senate and the House question him about the administration of his investigation, the circumstances of his hiring. We have Rosenstein.
So what's it going to take? Have you spoken to any Congress people about this, Tom?
Oh, no, they don't want to do this.
Why?
They don't want to do this.
Why?
I've been struck by the fact that Mueller has been exempted from oversight, the only government official in the Trump administration who they don't want to talk to. Look at all the folks they want to bring in as witnesses. McCabe, Strzok, Rosenstein, but they don't want to talk to the guy who seems to be running the Justice Department on the Russia investigations, Bob Mueller.
Right, and
frankly,
looking the other way when he finds out that there's criminal activity on the left. Outrageous. But maybe the deep state goes into Congress, too. Who knows?
That's right. It's well represented in Congress. There's a deep state caucus there, believe you me.
Sad commentary. Tom Fitton, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
All right, so ahead tonight, I take you on an exclusive to Liberty University in Virginia for a tour given by none other than the groundbreaking school's president, Jerry Falwell Jr. And next, the marquee matchup of the night, Katrina Pearson, Chris Hahn, the political panel, chomping at the bit to debate the week in Washington. Don't go away. Back in a moment.
In Georgia today, and the suspects are still at large. Officer Anton Toney of the Gwinnett County Police Department was shot around 3 p.m. He was responding to reports of a suspicious vehicle at a middle school near Snellville, Georgia. Toney, a 2-year veteran of the force, later died at the hospital. Witnesses say as many as 4 suspects fled the scene. And with no winner in last night's Mega Millions lottery drawing, the jackpot grows to a record-breaking $1.6 billion. This is the largest jackpot in history, just barely edging out the previous record set in January of 2016. The massive jackpot bringing many first-time players to the lottery. The odds of winning are about 1 in 302 million. I'm Anita Vogel. Now let's take you back to Justice with Judge Jeanine.
As you can see, chaos at the Guatemala-Mexico border and immigration taking center stage in the national debate again, just in time for the midterm elections. Just one of the topics we talk about with the panel. Syndicated radio show host Chris Hahn making a special appearance on Justice Tonight. Senior advisor to Trump 2020 re-election, Katrina Pearson. All right, guys, you are familiar with the mob of illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, pushing through from Guatemala to Mexico against police and enforcement. And what we saw in those few seconds were virtually all men. Tell me, Chris, why these people should be allowed to enter in a mob of thousands into the United States.
Look, I am for controlled borders, as are most people on the left in this country. I think that the president had an opportunity last year when Schumer and Pelosi offered him DACA for the wall, and then he was talked out of it by McConnell and Ryan because they wanted this exact issue for this exact moment. They are more concerned about the election than solving the actual problem.
So your answer to these, listen, Chris, your answer to these illegals crossing and violently crossing, resisting law enforcement, all men, is because they're concerned about the Trump, Schumer, Mitch McConnell fight?
No. I'm saying that the reason why, of course not, unless they are seeking asylum legitimately or there's a reason for them to be here, and everybody agrees with that. They need to come here legally, and there needs to be a process. And there was goodwill by both the president, Leader Pelosi, and Leader Schumer, but Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan blocked it. I don't want to talk politics
tonight, Chris. I want to talk about this mob. Okay. Go ahead, Katrina.
Look, Judge, it was President Trump who nearly doubled the recipients he was willing to accept over Obama, but that's neither here nor there. And this really isn't just any mob. This is a column on the march, carrying their own flag. This is an invasion. And I have to applaud the Mexican government for at least appearing to want to help with this situation, but let's not pretend this is organic. We're talking about men, thousands of men, only scattered with women and children for protection, who are actually marching across the border. This is another leftist-funded operation, fully flagged with several innocent victims, photo-ready outrage designed to pull on the heartstrings of Americans, complete emotional attachment, only to distract from the rational analysis behind this. This is no more organic than Dr. Ford coming out in the 25th hour to try and have the left capitalize on getting rid of due process in this country. This is a $35 million project.
Katrina, if you want to go down the conspiracy theory hole about this, there is no way that Democrats in this country would have organized this at this point in the midterm election. This is perfectly pitched for the Republican base right now. This is exactly what you needed at this time to energize
So you're going to tell me, Chris, that people who are
Katrina's suggesting that this is some conspiracy. I want to know what you know about the conspiracy, Katrina.
It costs $7,000 per head to bring these people. $7,000 per head to have these traffickers move these people throughout the southern hemisphere.
Yeah.
That is $35 million. How can impoverished people do this?
You're talking about a conspiracy from basically what you said was Democrats organized this in Guatemala.
Somebody organized it,
Chris. Not just American Democrats, leftists.
All right, let me ask you this, Chris. Should they be stopped by the military at the border and turned around, and that whole mob, and unfortunately the mob thing seems to be a favorite of the left. Shouldn't they be turned around immediately? I don't even look at them. They're all men. All men. They just decide at some point they want to come to the United States all of a sudden, as opposed to last month, the month before, the month before.
I think all Americans believe in a secure border, and I think there needs to be order at that border, and I think that the president was offered order at the border by Democrats, and he rejected it because the Republicans wanted this issue at this time.
He offered 1.8 million Dreamers citizenship.
Well, I believe in order at the border, and I will tell you there has been less order at the border under this president than there was before.
All Americans clearly are not in support of secure borders because we have a Democrat Party in the United States that supports sanctuary cities. You can't have a secure border and sanctuary cities. That's kind of not how it works, Chris. We have to resolve the issue. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer had the perfect opportunity to resolve it, and they refused.
What there is people. What there is different times when people ask for documentation. What Katrina would have you do is for police to walk up to people they suspect as being illegal and say,
no such thing as sanctuary.
Papers, please. That's what you want, Katrina.
You're not going to come here and spin lies. There are sanctuary cities, counties, and states in this country where illegal criminals are provided more protection than American citizens. And don't you come on this show and say that that's not the case. That's it. Goodbye.
Look, any American that runs into the law is asked for identification. These people, not so much. That is sanctuary, Chris.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Jerry Falwell Jr. and Tucker Carlson still on deck. Don't miss it. This week, I sat down with Tucker to talk about his new book, my mother's favorite, Ship of Fools. Take a look. All right, Tucker Carlson, congratulations on the book. I would buy it, if only for the cover. You have Republicans and Democrats and possibly lunatics. Some people who should be in jail who aren't in jail. Some people who are headed for jail. Let me ask you this. Do you expect any of these people in the Ship of Fools to ever come on your show? Were you to ask them?
Well, one of them has already refused, but no, I don't. And actually, I know a lot of those people. I know almost all of them, having been in D.C. my whole life. Yeah. And it's not a personal attack. I mean, it's pretty easy to attack people.
No, you call them fools. Of course it's a personal
Well, I'm attacking their decisions, and I'm attacking more than that.
Yeah, well, then you should put their decisions, not their face.
No, but look, the whole interior of the book, between the cover and the back cover, is an explanation that it's not. Look, I know it's very fashionable to attack people's behavior in high school now, but I actually don't believe in that. I think you should assess people's adult decisions.
Why, are you covering up for what you did in high school?
Yes, I am. Okay. I am. Not that I remember any of it. I have no calendar. But let me just say, it's not that people make mistakes. I've made a million. I worked at MSNBC, okay, so I've made mistakes. The question is, do you admit it and do you learn from it? And what I'm so struck by, the reason Trump got elected is because the people who made a series of terrible decisions about our economy, our foreign policy, our culture, never admitted it and never learned.
Okay, but I agree with you. Donald Trump is the president because Barack Obama was the guy before him.
Exactly.
And people that fed up, they said no more of this. But what I want to talk about is, you say that we're headed toward, or at least at the brink of a revolution.
Yes.
I agree with you. I think we're at the point where the liberals are proud and they consider it a badge of honor when they obstruct, when they get in our faces, when they harass and, just harass us.
I completely agree. But what's driving all of this volatility? It's not, everyone wants to make everything a race question. Oh, it's this tribe against this tribe. I don't believe that. I think their core problems are economic problems. The middle class was the majority for 100 years. Now it's the minority. People are getting poorer outside of the big cities, and the big cities don't care. Young people are getting poorer. They can't get married, buy cars, buy houses.
Right.
People know their kids will make less and be less successful and have less opportunity than they do.
Whose fault is that, and to whom should that, the fact that that happened benefit?
The people I write about are the answer to the question you just asked. A small group of people is way richer, and I live among them. I'm, by the way, richer than I was 10 years ago after the financial crash.
Right.
But the rest of the country is not. And if you're running the country, its major institutions, including its big banks and its big companies like Amazon, including its cultural institutions like NBC, you need to pay attention to what's happening to the people in your country. If you want to lead, you need to care about the people you're leading, and they don't.
All right. So in the end, which is the party that's going to help get us through this attempted socialism? Because they're winning. They're winning around the country. They're getting elected. Bernie Sanders was an avowed socialist. He almost ran for president, but for the rigged DNC and Hillary Clinton.
He got 43%. He might have won. And a lot of people who voted for Bernie in the primaries voted for Trump, because both of them were talking not about race and gender and all this boring college garbage.
Right.
They're talking about core economic things like, by the way, what are wages doing? Our immigration policy hurts working class people. There's no debate about that. And you never hear it. It's all about race.
All right. And everybody loves you because you tell it straight. I love you. I watch your opening statements. What do you call them? I call them opens. What do you call them?
Just the script.
Just the script.
I'm very literal.
Back to the book. Listen, what I love is Kopechne. You talk about Mary Jo Kopechne, and you say divers estimated she had survived for several hours in the Oldsmobile, her head in an air pocket, until she finally suffocated from lack of oxygen. But then you go right to your point, which is it doesn't matter. The feminists still love Ted Kennedy.
Well, that's the point. And by the way, I just want to be really clear. I believe in forgiveness. I'm the last person who does. If Ted Kennedy had said, I did that, it was cowardly, I was drunk, I don't want to get arrested for it, I made a horrible decision, a woman died, and I'm sorry, I would be the first person to say, I believe in that. I'd be friends with Idi Amin if he repented. I don't believe in this no forgiveness thing that we're now all into.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
He never apologized. He lied about it.
Apologizing. He got away with a homicide. It's called criminally negligent homicide.
And he was a hero to the feminists. The man who killed a woman and lied about it is a feminist hero. What does that tell you about their priorities?
I'm asking you.
Women are not their priorities, obviously. Why would you make a guy who killed a woman your hero? If you're a feminist, what does that mean?
Okay, I have to go. It's the end of the segment.
Well, it's so nice to see you. Thank you for having me.
Justice.
It was just.
Next, a special treat, a first-hand look at Liberty University and a guided tour from its president, Jerry Falwell Jr. Next. Is a one-of-a-kind school in Lynchburg, Virginia. It's a nonprofit Christian university where both students and faculty practice what they preach. I had the pleasure to visit recently and got a first-hand tour from its president, Jerry Falwell Jr. Here I am at Liberty University with the president of the university, Jerry Falwell. How is it that this university in particular is able to get so many students who were so Christian-oriented, constitutional